My family and I have been fortunate not to have experienced a violent attack yet. But even in normal times, I feel people need to train with a firearm and keep it loaded and quickly accessible in order to defend themselves and loved ones from a potential criminal attack, however unlikely this may be. In addition, some of you may be aware that these are not normal times. I mentioned before that one of my hobbies is studying current world affairs. So I know that the US and the world face historic economic and social problems. I believe in the old saying, hope for the best but prepare for the worst. The worst case I fear is that we may see major civil unrest and lawlessness in the near future. And so I believe the need for people to prepare for self-defense has stepped up a notch. Whatever your situation, everybody has an inherent right to self-defense. If nothing else, everyone should at least consider basic security measures for their residence. Install deadbolts on all outside doors. Check through the peephole or window before opening your front door to a visitor. Or better yet, install a security door on your front door. All of our windows incorporate a metal block in the track that you can raise up to stop the window from sliding open more than just a crack. And we make sure to use them. If your windows don't have this feature, lay a wood dowel or PVC pipe in the track to stop it from sliding open more than just a crack. It's important to keep some windows cracked to ventilate the residence, or the air inside will get bad. If your family members are coughing a lot, check the ventilation of your residence. Also, consider installing motion detector alarms inside your home and turn them on at night. If you perform all these measures, as I have, your residence will be very secure. Only the most determined assailant will break in, but if he does, it's likely he's a real bad dude. And he targeted your residence. It wasn't just by chance. Now consider the mindset of an assailant. You might think that he's decent just like you, because you have only known decent people. Well, think about it. Do you break into people's homes? Let's hope not. No, the assailant is probably a cold-hearted psychopath, and right off the bat, he has major advantages over you, the good person. For one, the assailant has the element of surprise on his side. This is huge because you don't know when he's going to strike. And when he does, you will be taken completely by surprise in all likelihood, and not know what to do. 2, the assailant is probably desperate, has little to lose, and therefore little fear. On the other hand, the good person is in great fear, because he or she has everything to lose. 3, the assailant has no remorse, and won't hesitate to hurt someone. He's a psychopath. Heck, he might even enjoy hurting people. On the other hand, the good person usually is very hesitant of harming another, even in self-defense. Let's consider some self-defense measures. A dog provides companionship and a moderate amount of deterrence, but will be easily defeated by a determined assailant. If you used pepper spray, a stun gun, a club or a knife, and if the assailant is unarmed, you might have an advantage, but that's a big if. The main problem with these weapons is one of distance. These are close-range weapons. Generally, you want to keep as much distance as possible between you and the assailant and still be able to stop the attack, because he may also be wielding one of these weapons. Or he may simply charge you, and at close range, you won't have time to react. Finally, what if the assailant is armed with a firearm? Well then, you better be too. The armed and trained person owns the capability to decisively stop an attack from a distance. In my opinion, the need for defensive firearms training largely boils down to some basic knowledge combined with a lot of common sense. At best, a firearm in untrained hands provides a false sense of security. Many people who own a firearm don't keep it loaded and quickly accessible. If an assailant breaks in, the firearm will be about as useful as a large paperweight. At worst, a firearm in untrained hands is more dangerous than an assailant because of the high probability of an accident occurring. Seriously, without training, you are better off without it. If you just accomplish the basic security measures I mentioned earlier, you'll be fairly secure even without a firearm. Now let's look at a scenario where an armed assailant suddenly starts to break in your door. Whether you have a firearm or not, escape if possible. If escape is not an option, and you have no firearm, when the assailant breaks in, he will decide your fate. You are helpless, and this is obviously a bad outcome. Or, if you have a firearm but lack training, your lack of training will be obvious to the assailant, and he may call your bluff and charge you. You may then freeze or surrender, and the assailant gets your firearm and decides your fate. Or you may shoot but miss, and the assailant gets your firearm and decides your fate. Or you may hit but not stop him, and he gets your firearm and decides your fate. These are the worst possible outcomes because, in addition to your helplessness, the assailant took your firearm and is probably mad that you resisted. Or, it's possible you may hit and stop the assailant or scare him off if you are very lucky. However, it's rarely smart to rely on luck. Now, how does being armed and trained with a firearm counter the assailant's advantages that I mentioned earlier? Well, the armed and trained person implements routine home security measures and keeps one or more firearms safely stored and quickly accessible. A locked-up residence will delay the assailant from breaking in, giving the trained person time to access a firearm. This will mitigate the assailant's biggest advantage, the element of surprise. And when the assailant finally does break in, the trained person confronts him with a firearm in a practice response. This should reduce the trained person's fear and hesitation to harm another human being because he or she is following a familiar procedure and is too busy to be scared. To some degree, this will negate the assailant's second and third advantages, his lack of fear or hesitation towards harming someone. To put it bluntly, he won't hesitate to hurt you, so don't hesitate to hurt him. Let's look at the picture of the assailant again. If he had just broken into my home, and he is armed with a weapon, he is an immediate and imminent threat to me and my family. This picture would show him in that split second before I shot him. Okay, the next video to watch is video 2, cartridge descriptions.